and welcome to Media Lit, where we treat each piece of media like great literature. I'm your host, Randy Elaine, and joining me, as always, is the one and only Kris Ingersoll. Kris, how you doing tonight?
Snooch to the mother-loving nooch. So excited to be here tonight, buddy. How are you?
So good. So happy to be the silent Bob to your Jay. It's a great time to be on Media Lit. It's a great time to be working with you. And listen, Kris, I love working with you. I love chatting with you. But I want to chat with all of the Podlings. It's like rain on your wedding day. It's a free ride when you've already paid. It's the good advice that you just didn't take. Who would have thought? It figures. Listen, write into Media Lit, give us a follow, send us your emails, and we will take your good advice. We are eager to podcast about the things you want to hear about. Send us your favorite random pop culture reference, and we are ready to dig in. We are ready to respond, and we'll make you feel seen. Sound good, Kris?
Sounds beautiful. So beautifully expressed. Thank you, Randy. And it's not just the Podlings that we like to talk with, though. We have this wonderful family over at the Pop Break, a family headed up by the one, the only, Mr. John Doe Jersey himself, Bill Bodkin. And he's here tonight because we couldn't talk about this particular topic without bringing in our resident Catholic pal. For more chats about growing up Catholic, go back and listen to our last Knives Out chat, Wake Up Dead Man, featuring Bill Bodkin. But he's also our favorite New Jerseyan. So we had to have him here with us tonight as we move forward into a very special topic. And without further ado, that topic is the 1999 film Dogma. Bill Bodkin, welcome to the Dogma podcast.
In nomine Padre Spiritus Santo, kiss it up, amen. Listen, guys, I let's talk about how Catholic this last podcast we did was. I legitimately, and I told both of you this, it was right before Christmas when we recorded, and I went to confession after watching Knives Out, Wake Up Dead Man. I was just like, I feel like I need to get right with the Lord, and I certainly did. And what better way to celebrate the Easter holiday than talking about shit monsters, the Jersey Shore, and Alanis Morissette.
Skee ball, baby.
Although you do have me just wanting to see our favorite detective hang out with Jay and Silent Bob. I would watch that movie.
He wouldn't last 5 minutes of that, man.
I don't know. He might be really tickled by Jay. There might be a special kinship there that we don't really understand.
He's like, Jay, my loquacious jagaloon of a friend, please just I cannot stand any more of your elocuting.
Juvenile jabroni.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he could do his own take on the Alan Rickman line.
Yeah.
The one that talks, and he will talk at great length.
Man, they've always talked about a sequel to this movie, and man, if they were ever going to get a stand-in for a new Metatron, it would be Dan.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we're going to get into this whole movie tonight. This is our first foray into the View Askewniverse, the View Askewniverse, if you will, talking about one of my favorite directors, Kevin Smith. And the Easter season is upon us, folks. The holiday has just passed, and so we had to get into a little bit of Dogma. Before we can really talk about our connections to Kevin Smith and to Dogma, though, Randy has got to give us his signature synopsis. Randy, could you do us the honor, please?
Yeah, I'm so happy to jump in, Kris. And this is extra important tonight because in one of the greatest travesties known to man, the film Dogma is still quite hard to access via streaming services without, paying for the film itself.
Which I did.
Exactly. I pulled out my old physical media. It brought me all the way back to 1999. It was one of those double-sided DVDs. I had to pick between the widescreen version and the full screen version. But yeah, I'm fully rooted in 1999. Last night we were podcasting about Beck's Midnight Vultures, which came out 11 days after Dogma.
Wow.
Which is wild.
Wow. That's crazy.
But yeah, here we are. So if this is a film you haven't caught up on in a while, here is my synopsis. After a renegade demon exploits a loophole in the dogma of the Catholic Church, existence itself hangs in the balance. In God's most desperate hour, her right-hand angel mobilizes the last scion, the 13th apostle, and two very unconventional prophets to stop a pair of exiled angels from negating life on earth, heaven, and in hell. This unlikely fellowship also gets a vital assist from the physical manifestation of an artistic muse. Ultimately, the last scion, Bethany, fulfills her purpose by taking a journey of self discovery that redefines and reinvigorates her faith. And that, my friends, is Dogma.
Absolutely beautiful,
Ah.
buddy. Thank you very, very much for taking us through. You know, as you were laying that out, I was thinking to myself, man, he wrote himself a pretty good plot here. Like this is a straightforward, you could like summarize the story in a way that somebody could it makes sense. They can take it in and understand why you would want to follow that story from the beginning to the middle to the end. That cannot be said of every Kevin Smith joint. So it struck me as you were summarizing how very much like a legit film this is to be taken seriously.
I would say his most, maybe this might be a hot take, his most mainstream and accessible film.
Hmm.
Yeah. Other than how literally inaccessible it was for very many years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it for people who don't know, it went out of print
Mhm.
and physical media. It was owned by the Weinsteins,
The great evil.
and then Kevin Smith officially got it back. It went back to theaters, and yeah, you've got to buy this one.
Yeah.
And so this, and it's wild that his other movies are way more accessible than this.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah, this one was out of print for a while. It was being literally held hostage, you know, on
Mhm.
principle, on moral principle. Kevin Smith wasn't going to pay a sex offender to buy back his own property. So grateful that finally something was able to be done and eventually could come back to us because this film, especially today, in a world where we're faced with like an ever-present rise in Christian nationalism and a terrifying attempt for Christian religion to really hold power here in this country in a new way. It was helpful to revisit this film and the messaging
Mhm.
there and the questions they want to ask. I think everybody should watch this film this year. Um, I guess we can get right into personal connections if we're at it.
Yeah.
This is a Kris pick. This was one for me because I love this film because I love Kevin Smith and I've loved Kevin Smith since I was probably too young to love Kevin Smith movies. I've intimated on the podcast before that we were always kids who just like watched what was being watched in the household. So if my parents, who were young parents, rented a new release and they wanted to watch it, we were likely to be in the room, regardless of subject matter within reason. So I didn't see Dogma right in 99 when it came out, but Kevin Smith would follow this with Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back just a few years later. And that was the first Jay and Silent Bob property that I was exposed to, which led me then immediately to go back and
Yep.
fill in the blanks. Like that was already perfect for me as a 11-year-old boy, I think I was at the time. It's as Kevin Smith, as his characters would say themselves, it's weed and dick and fart jokes. Y- y- and at 11
Yeah.
years old, all that really worked for me. I had never smoked weed in my life. I wouldn't experience that until much, much later. But something about the whole stoner culture, stoner humor, just like worked on me at 11 years old. And my dad loved these movies too. So something I shared with him. And the more I started to quote the movies, the more I mastered that opening rap from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and could curse it out with Jay himself. Like the more tickled and proud my dad would be, and the more we shared these things. So my history with this film is really tied into my history with the View Askewniverse in general, in all these Jay and Silent Bob properties. I would go back and I would find Clerks, that thing that put him on the map. Mallrats is maybe it's top in my bunch. I'd have to do a proper ranking to really understand, but Batman looms large in Mallrats, and so does Star Wars. And so for me as a kid, at like, again, 11, 12 years old, that like really, really worked. I loved everything these guys were into. It was everything that I was into. And then Dogma was in that bunch. And I remember not really appreciating it for what it was the first time around. It wouldn't be until I watched it in college. And now I had more understanding of the world. I had more history with characters like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, that I really appreciated the film that it was. I didn't share this with any friends at the time, but I've come to share this with so many friends, including one of my very best friends, Blake Tyler Coleman, friend of the pod, throwing back to season 1.
Oh, a triple name.
That's raw. Blake Tyler Coleman, you got to do it.
Blake, come back, man.
He knows the one. Music pod buddy, you know. Blake joined me for a little pop-up Kevin Smith did in 2021. We had a Movies came to Boston. And if you get the opportunity to eat under the roof of the Golden Calf, you go and you eat. So we're my very special Moowins t-shirt here tonight representing my Kevin Smith merch. Yeah, guys. I mean, I love these films. But what about you? Do you guys go way back with these? Like, Randy, did you watch this in 99 when it dropped?
So I didn't watch this when it dropped. I didn't catch it in theaters. But yeah, I'll just kind of jump in. I do like Kevin Smith movies, but I've never like gone full in on the whole Kevin Smith osphere, the whole View Askew catalog. I've seen Clerks, I've seen Mallrats. I think I've seen Chasing Amy, but I'm not even positive if I've seen it or if I've just like watched clips from it. I think I saw Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, but like probably at a party or something where there were a million other things going on.
That doesn't count.
And I wasn't really paying very much attention to it. But
Girls, alcohol,
Dogma,
weed. No.
this movie, I have seen many, many times. I already mentioned that my physical media is hanging around. And I did catch it within a few years of release. I am someone who was raised in the Catholic Church, as we've discussed at length on the pod in the past. I feel like I had quite good role models and teachers within that faith, but I was still coming to this movie at a time with many questions, concerns, confusion. I had gone through things like my confirmation recently. I had like unsatisfying answers. I tried to see if I could find it for tonight, and I could not figure out if it still exists anywhere. But I had this like Bible for teens that I was gifted at some point around my confirmation. And it was just full of like bad, nonsensical answers to practical questions. It would like direct you to a piece of scripture that had absolutely nothing to do with your actual question.
It's like, what does Deuteronomy have to do with any of this? And you're like, well, okay.
Yeah. And this movie came out, and it made me feel so justified in the questions that I had about the world. To see a character like Bethany have this frustration, this disconnection, and not quite know why she was still going through the motions to kind of make it feel like it was okay to acknowledge that there are problems, there are questions, there are things that we need to address and talk about. It was incredibly empowering and powerful, and I think it still reflects a kind of morality that I still hold really close to my heart. So even with the trappings of the View Askewniverse, which is very smart, but also, as you mentioned earlier, self-proclaimed silliness as well. For this film to be so earnest and so powerful makes it a special piece of media, and I'm really glad we get to talk about it tonight as literature.
Yep, buddy. I can appreciate the catharsis this brought to the angsty Catholic heart.
Indeed.
So I get my Jersey card pulled for a little bit here. So I'm older than both of you. So in 1994 was not far away from when I entered high school, I should say. And I can tell you unequivocally, without any doubt or any hesitation in my heart, I could not stand Kevin Smith, and I'll tell you why.
I knew this was going to be the take. I knew it.
Everyone whose opinions I didn't like, and the people who I didn't like, would quote Clerks and Mallrats and all these movies so much, and I was like, I hate everything about this. So then I saw Clerks in college, and I realized all those people I didn't like in high school ruined every single joke for me.
I bet they did.
I knew every punchline. I hate it. And I just saw it. I was like, I get it. I understand why this was a groundbreaking film, all this stuff. And I was just like, but I don't ever have to watch this movie again. 20 years ago, 2000, the fall of 2006. Yes, that's math, Bill. I had Netflix, the DVD version.
DVD at the time.
When
sure.
I was getting
Mhm.
and one of the top movies on my list was Dogma. And where did I live 20 years ago, you may ask? Well, I lived in Red Bank, New Jersey.
Mhm.
And where did I go to church every single Sunday? St. James Catholic Church, which the exterior of this had a quick shot in, and it is modeled after. Obviously, St. James is not going to allow all the gore and viscera that happened with old Ben and Matt.
Mhm.
But that church in Red Bank, not far from where the bar was that was filmed there, where they filmed, 3 towns over, 10 minutes away, very, very accurate, was a church I went to for a long time. A church, and this is where I got a little serious, a church that tried to go to confession to one time, and they posted the times wrong, and I really felt the need to go, and I had a door slammed in my face by a priest. So at that time, I was like, "Oh man, me and the Catholic Church, we got some problems here." And then I rented this film, and I was like, I always wanted to watch it, and this viewing of today is the first time I have watched this film in 20 years. And I could tell you that when I watched that film, I still have scenes of that film emblazoned into my head. And no, it was
Mhm.
not the Golgothan that was stuck in my head. It was many other scenes.
It wasn't the shit demon?
It wasn't. I mean, I mean, it wasn't, guys. But I remember, there's so much of this movie and so much of the messaging that stuck with me. I remember I bought it right away. And it's still one of my favorite movies of all time. Kevin Smith, his rest of his catalog, I did enjoy Red State up until the end.
Mhm.
I enjoyed Zack and Miri Make a Porno. I thought it's a pretty fun movie.
Mhm.
There's some other stuff that Kevin Smith has done that's been fun, but I also have to give a big shout out to Kevin Smith for not doing not one, not two, but 3 interviews with us over on the Pop Breaking. Kev, if you're listening, it
Yeah.
has been about a decade since we spoke, so let's get together on this. What I love about this movie is a multitude. One, it takes place in my backyard. In my previous life before Pop Break started, I was a Jersey Shore nightlife and entertainment magazine managing editor where I covered such things as the Asbury Park Boardwalk, where God was cross-checked into oblivion. The Highlands, you've seen of many Kevin Smith movies, at the old bootlegger bar, which eventually became the Jamaican bar known as the Sugar Shack and is now a soccer bar called the Chuppy Pickle, and has been that
Nice.
way for a long time. Right down the street, and when the opening shot is Bar's Landing, one of the most famous seafood restaurants at the Jersey Shore. So much of what's mentioned about New Jersey and is factual, and it just made my heart explode with joy about all of this. But what stuck with me more about this was it felt like an honest conversation.
Mhm.
Someone who was older than me, but grew up in the same area with the same lifestyle and the same kind of experiences that I had outside of being a filmmaker who made millions of dollars in his life, was having about the Catholic faith.
Mhm.
And it hit home in so many ways. It's brilliant casting from George Carlin all the way down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why this movie has stuck with me for so long, and that's why at the moment you guys were like, "Hey, Dogma," and I was like, "Oh, I don't care how busy I am. I'm clearing out the schedule for this one because this was a
Nice.
special one that really still to this day, I think, touches a lot in my life, and we'll get into that. But yeah, I was not a Kevin Smith guy thanks to whole bunch of douchebags that went to my all boys Catholic high school in
Uh-huh.
Central Jersey, the home of New York Knicks center, Karl Anthony Towns. So, something I always love to say.
Love that.
So yeah, there was a lot there. And so I was not a Kevin Smith guy, but I have definitely changed my tune. He still has a movie theater in Atlantic Highlands, the Smod Castle.
That's right.
The fourth
Nice.
for the 430 movie, I think that was one of his more recent ones, was based
Yeah.
on that. And he's always around, man. He's always around. Red Bank still has Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash comic
Yep.
book store. They're always around, man. So
He's a community guy, and I absolutely love that, right? Something that as a small town guy from north of Boston that really speaks to me, somebody who's just so attached and ingrained to that place where they
Mhm.
grew up, and to hear that you had such a personal connection to the film because it was made by somebody who grew up right where you did isn't surprising to me because despite this being something so accessible, as we've said before, and much more mainstream than maybe some of his productions, this is still a deeply personal work. You can tell he's writing very much from his own voice here. Yeah, certainly easy to connect with that way.
I can still see and you can pass by the quick stop on Route 36. Oh, any day of the week, you can see it from the highway. So
This place licks balls compared to the Quick Stop. I'll say that about just about any place in the world that's less than satisfactory to me.
well played, sir. Well played.
That Kevin Smith really does get around. I've not spent a lot of time in Jersey, but during my trip to Disney World last year, I must have just missed him. I think we overlapped because I was on social media like the next day and I saw him posting a picture right next to a Mr. Toad statue that I had just been standing next to. So
Oh, man, if I saw the
this
man
this
in jorts and
close
a
to my
backwards hat,
meeting.
I would have lost my mind.
Yeah, he was wearing the uniform for sure.
Mhm, mhm.
All right, I've just got one more question in the personal connection section. And whenever we talk about a text that we love, that we are going to gush over for most of the podcast, I do think it's important just to acknowledge where each piece of media has some room to grow if we're going to take it seriously. So we all love this movie, but Kris, I'm going to put you in this difficult position first. Does this wonderful film have any flaws?
Yeah, and it's funny, I can tell when you are introducing a thing, that has some flaws versus when we're, like, reaching for this category, and this is
Yeah.
one where very easily, as somebody who loves this film and the body of work that it's a part of, right, that
Yeah.
larger View Askewniverse, um, the humor is immature at
Yeah.
times in a
Sure.
lot of ways, and with that, you get things that are like I guess maybe I have a grace in my heart because I have such an attachment to the creator, and I
Mhm.
believe that there isn't a malice or an intent to harm, but there are some just very, what we would say today, unwoke jokes throughout
Mhm.
this film. Homophobia runs rampant throughout the Kevin Smith brand, and I don't think it's because there's any true hatred there by any means. In fact, at one point in the film, one of the great evils named in the boardroom will be that a person disowned their gay son.
Yeah.
But there's just an of the time, this is the way straight guys joke with each other,
Yeah.
homophobia laced throughout all of it. So you can't just wash over that and not acknowledge it.
Yeah, dropping the R word in there as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it was a little. I think the Jay character doesn't age well.
And it's the character, which
Yeah,
or the
because
intent.
yeah, and it's the character because it's too much. It's too like, I swear like a sailor, right? A drunken one at that, and but at the same time, it's like, dude, like, you're going overboard, and, like, dial it back a minute by, like, by 2, and you're good, but that's his character, so that's the one thing that, like, kinda sticks out like a sore thumb is the Jay character.
Yeah. A little like Michael Scott, like, it's helpful that the world finds this person absurd and reprehensible when they say and do these things. Certainly it's helpful, but you're right, he's a little bit like, remember in Old School when Vince Vaughn's trying to explain that you can swear in front of the kid, you just have to say earmuffs first.
I
And then
have done
Will
that.
Ferrell goes on and, like, he regurgitates all these curses. Vince Vaughn says, "Well, listen, you don't have to celebrate it, Frank." That's Jay at all times. Like, he's a
Yeah.
kid
Yeah.
who's not in front of his parents. He's just celebrating the fact that he can get away with swearing. It's quite over the top.
You know,
Yes.
I think those were both great answers, guys. I think for me, I'm always surprised by how much I am not upset by the Jay character because I do have a tendency to zero in on like what hasn't aged well, like when are the wrong messages getting through that were not intended. And I was trying to figure out why this character, at least in this movie, is a little bit immune to that. Um, and maybe it's just like the teacher in me. Like his absurdity is
Mm,
at a level where it just makes me pity him.
mm,
It feels like a real person and he's had so little direction, so few role models, so few examples to live by or live toward. that he is just like this walking failed attempt at like looking and acting tough. So when he says a line that is disgusting, guys like us don't just fall out of the sky. Chris Rock falls, and then he immediately looks up and says, I believe the line is beautiful, big-titted women don't just fall out of the sky, you know?
Beautiful,
It's
big-titted, naked women don't
Thank
just fall out
you.
of the sky, you know.
It's so sophomoric and immature and dumb. It is just kinda like, "Oh, buddy. So someone needs to, like, hear you out. Someone needs to, like, listen to you so you can better understand yourself." And he does get those little moments of earnestness, and I think
Yeah, he
that's how
does, for sure.
he gets away with some of it for me. And not every character that's trying to do that in pop culture gets away with it, but Jay does for me, at least in this film.
I
Um,
I think you're touching on something very, very real there, Randy,
yeah.
about the character, because even in universe,
Mhm,
like, when we get to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, we'll watch Justice, like, the female, main character of the film, your female lead, fall for him. She just finds him so
mhm.
adorable. Like, there's something almost sweet and innocent about him because of this character that you're describing. There's something, I think, very, very real about that, and I will say that over time, Kevin Smith has done a nice job of writing this character as Jason Mewes went through his own, struggles in real life. That friendship remained, and Kevin Smith gave him an
Mhm.
opportunity to play Jay again when they came back and they did that Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and that
Yeah,
character actually gets an arc. That character is no
yeah.
longer just in the story to be two-dimensional and sticky. They now have something to really live for as their daughter is introduced to the story. So yeah, I love what you have to say about Jay, Randy. I think if you were to go
Yeah.
on through the View Askewniverse, you might find some satisfaction in his character arc.
Now that being said, if I had been the one you went to for that question first, I might have given the same answer. I think you guys hit it, and now I'm gonna be the asshole, and I'm gonna cheat. I
This is about
af
that.
after making you answer this question, I'm gonna cheat and say this isn't really actually a flaw with the movie. This is just something that has not aged well for me, which is obviously beyond Kevin Smith's control or anyone attached to the movie's control. Obviously, corporate greed, corporate corruption is nothing new. Um, but just, like, within my lifetime to, like, see how much it has sped up, like, as the structure of the media gets bigger and the control of messaging gets more and more consolidated, and the more money there is to grab in more markets, uh, the offenses of not the offenses of the individual board members, but, like, kind of like the outline of the movie empire itself
Mhm.
financially, it sounds almost quaint compared to, like, the type of, like, corporate beast I imagine in the present. It's like, "Oh, and they have, like, 3, like, home release videos." And this
Yeah,
is meant to be, like, the ultimate evil. So that was, like,
You forgot
wild.
about the magazine, but by the way. Um,
movie magazine.
but so
Thank you,
Randy,
thank you.
I thought you were going somewhere else with this. I thought you
Yeah.
were saying, but beyond Kevin Smith's control is like the thing that might piss you off about this is like this movie would not be made today
Mm.
Mm.
because or do you think anyone's because I remember the backlash when it came out, like Catholics were pissed,
Oh, yeah.
and hence why we have all the our little prologue, right? Our little disclaimers. Uh,
Mhm.
but I don't think this movie gets made today.
I
Like,
think you're right, yeah.
I don't think anyone's taking a chance on this.
Or if they do, they're taking a swipe at a different organized Christian denomination. Like, Randy, I love what you had to say about the sort of almost quaintness about the movie empire as it's described, especially in
Yeah.
the face of something like this Ellison empire as Paramount maybe
Mhm.
buys Warner Brothers. We consider all that they will control, right? Movies certainly seems quaint by comparison. But
Yeah.
similarly, I was listening to Cardinal Glick talk about the Catholic Church and how it's falling
Mhm.
off and trying to get numbers back and how out of favor they have fallen. And I was like, man, it's pales in comparison to how we feel today about like that aggressively hateful evangelical white nationalist, Christian nationalist church movement, the mega church movement. So, Bill,
Mhm.
maybe this doesn't get made today, about the Catholic Church, because maybe we're actually looking at them with a little bit more grace than we did in 1999 by comparison.
So
Yep.
I'll disagree to that, because I think the going for the very like, let's make fun of like mega churches and stuff like that. I think what I like about this movie is it's not just a parody and a satire and a jab at the Catholic Church. There certainly is plenty of that, but it's more about discussion of faith. And
Totally.
so I don't think that movie gets made today. Like, I don't think like they look at Kevin Smith and be like, even at like, say peak Kevin Smith existed today. Like, say we just transfer 1990s Kevin Smith to today's streaming universe. I don't think people are like, I don't want to touch this movie. This isn't interesting to me. Make more Jay and Silent Bob. That's cool. Make more of that. I don't want to see I don't want your discussion of faith happening on my streamer.
I see what you're saying. Yes. So the money,
Yeah.
perhaps money would never go behind a film like this today, like it did back then, right? 'Cause this was a big studio betting on a big name director with something that was, certainly.
You know, we might have just missed the window, or maybe there's still a little runway left on the window. If Kevin Smith could get this going right now and get Sabrina Carpenter to sign on, who was part of getting a Catholic administrator fired for allowing her to film a music video in a Catholic church.
Yeah.
Maybe they could pull it off. No one's dared as much as Kevin Smith until Sabrina came along.
It's true.
Yeah, the Muppets
It's true. I thought you were going to go somewhere else, Randy. And this is Bill. I won't continue the debate, but I will say I love what you have to say about the way that this isn't just a parody. This isn't just taking shots at the Catholic Church. This is coming from a person who's wrestling, who wants to still identify where there's value and there's something that's meaningful here. But it's Taylor Tomlinson, the comedian. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Just dropped a brand new special, Prodigal Daughter. Have you seen it?
I've seen the clips from it, and her stuff's always been really good.
Prodigal Daughter does this very same thing, I think, quite well. It isn't just some potshot taking sideswipe at faith in all of its forms. This is a person who was raised in your more modern, sort of evangelical Christian environment, who has these very same like things to wrestle with. And I think that her comedy there in that special walks this same line that Kevin Smith was able to walk here in Dogma, where she's exploring something very, very personal. And it is an exploration of faith. So I won't debate whether or not the movie gets made, but that comedy existing tells me there's still an audience who wants to have this conversation.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. There's an audience for it. It's just, I wonder if the people who would put the money behind it would want to have that make a movie about that conversation. Taylor Thompson's bankable star, she's selling out, stuff like that.
So Kevin gets Sabrina and Taylor, and we get Netflix to do it. We're done.
Oh, yeah. Actually, wow.
They're the new Damon and Affleck.
Whoa.
Holy shit. Well, I was going to say Taylor Tomlinson as... actually, they know. It's Damon and Affleck.
Kevin, are you listening? Kevin, are you listening? Taylor Tomlinson, Sabrina Carpenter, Bartleby and Loki, gender swapped. Let's do this.
Gorgeous.
Sabrina Carpenter as Loki would be great. Of course, the grand irony of Matt Damon playing Loki and then playing Loki as playing Loki. Perfect.
Truly. Layers.
She does murder a lot of people in her music videos.
I haven't really studied her.
Muppets, too. Man-child. Great stuff. My daughter's obsessed. All right. We're going to keep this party going. We're going to get into this episode as literature eventually. But first, we've got to take a quick break so that you podlings at home can get better acquainted with all of our favorite podcasters over at the Pop Break. So listen in for some of those fantastic shows. Here we go.
This is Bill Bodkin, editor-in-chief of thepopbreak.com.
And this is the Human Star Wars Encyclopedia, Amanda Rivas.
We're the hosts of Pop Break's weekly flagship podcast, Socially Distanced.
Join us every week as we discuss the latest, the greatest, and even sometimes the lamest movies, shows, and trends in pop culture.
Whether it's Star Wars, Marvel, Bridgerton, DC, or the NFL, we're talking about it on Socially Distanced.
Check out new episodes every Thursday on all your favorite streaming platforms.
Are you loving every minute of the MCU's ever-expanding web of characters and continuity that is the Multiverse Saga?
Or are you feeling a bit overwhelmed by Marvel's quarter century of live action movies, TV series, and universes all about to converge in Avengers Secret Wars?
Either way, Bill vs. the MCU is right for you.
Each month, myself, Bill Bodkin, and my guy in the chair, Alex Marcus, laugh and cry our way through every MCU and MCU-adjacent property you need to watch between now and whenever Secret Wars finally comes out.
We've already covered the first 4 phases of the MCU, Fox's X-Verse, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Netflix's Defenders-Verse, and we are just getting started.
So fire up Zephyr 1, plug into Cerebro, and tell Stick to chill the hell out because we've got you covered on the Pop Break the second Tuesday of every month.
All right, folks, we are back. Time to get into this episode, or this film, as literature. As we've discussed, this film really manages to exist in a space between general irreverence for church doctrine and all that comes with it, and like a real deep, genuine yearning to explore the power of faith. So I'm curious to have a little chat here, guys. How did Kevin Smith and the crew manage to pull this off? Bill, we'll go to you first, buddy.
Not in a preachy way, which I really like. I just, man, nothing's worse than when you see the hammer coming in from the side of the screen right into your film. Which is always a gimmick my buddy used to do in his student films. When the point would come in, he would just have a guy with a hammer coming in. Sorry, I just thought of that.
Perfect.
Yeah, and so what I love about this film is like it does a little bit of hammering home. Like Salma Hayek has the great line as the muse, and she talks about it. It's like the idea of faith is good. It's just religion that didn't work. Chris Rock then has the point of like, hey, it's not an belief is a problem, not an idea. And so it's really this open discussion about open-mindedness. It's not about being open-minded to other religions, to other points of view, but also really, I think, through the Linda Fiorentino character, which, by the way, a casting like kind of time capsule, because after this, like, where has Linda Fiorentino gone? It seems it's virtual retirement. And because she was in the 90s, like a hot commodity.
Men in Black, baby.
Men in Black, The Last Seduction, 1994. That was
How many times are you gonna flashy thing that poor woman?
Oh my god! I did not. Let's talk about that for a second. I did not remember the way too extended shot of Alan Rickman's crotchless crotch. I was like, what the fuck am I watching? I remember it's been 20 years and there's a lot of stuff I remember, that not being one of them.
They then don't show you Salma Hayek when she does the same thing.
Right. Yes. Right.
There was a line there for Kevin Smith in the film. You know, there was a boundary not to cross.
Yeah. But yeah. But I think what I love about this movie is there's an honesty, a hopefulness to the conversation that really works, because it's just like Kevin Smith, like I said, he is heavy-handed in stuff. Like we've seen other films where we're like, dude, we get it. We got the point. But I just think he's able to, I think this is his greatest hits. This is to me, his perfect film, because it's just like, he takes New Jersey, he takes his references, he takes his ideology, and he takes like his way to tell fantastical stories with his, one thing I love, I've never really talked, maybe I talk about this, maybe I don't on other podcasts, is I love filmmakers who have like a company. They're not like View Askew, but they have a company of players, like a Wes Anderson, a Quentin Tarantino, who, an Edgar Wright, who have those people who are always in their films. Mike Flanagan, another one like that. And so he is using the Kevin Smith players to come in and play their roles, whether they're their characters or not, their signature characters, I should say. And they're telling this story. This is like, goes back to the basics of allegorical plays morality plays that we would read about in history books. So this is what I love about it. It's like, here's your modern morality play, and set in the 90s with some 90s tropes, obviously going to be in there, but through Kevin Smith's askewed view on the world. See what I did there? I almost hate myself for acknowledging the bit. And so that's what I love about this. It's just like him in his sandbox, but also not afraid to step outside of it and engage on a much larger level. And that's what the brilliance of Clerks is kind of too, is the mundaneness of life and stuff like that. And then he gets silly, like with mole rats and stuff like that, which are allowed to be silly. But I mean, just like, I think there's so much here that this was his passion project.
Mhm.
And you could see it jumping off the screen.
Certainly. Yeah. Well said. Very, very well said. Randy, what do you have to add, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I think I jumped the gun on this question earlier. I think when I was trying to get at just the earnestness that I see in Jay, despite all of his posturing and all of his bullshit and all the gross things that he's saying, I'm really just echoing Bill at this point. These are characters who have goodness within them, and it matters to them, and they care about it. It's true of Jay and Silent Bob, even though they're the silliest. It's true of Bethany. It's true of Rufus, the 13th apostle. We see complications even from serendipity, right? Like she thought she saw a path forward for herself, but her gift doesn't work quite the way that she hoped it would. And then, of course, our exiled angels were really overly punished for their offense. Like they were really just trying to better themselves. They took pity on humanity. Um, they went in a direction that God, as presented in this film, eventually followed suit with, but just kind of left them hanging. And there's this desire to improve, to grow. And again, we've dipped into this a little bit, but this isn't, despite the presence of the shit monster, this isn't pure farce. It's not totally cynical. It's not a takedown.
Mm.
It's trying to find some room to hold on to what is so valuable about this. So yeah, I think that was mainly me echoing Bill, but yeah, you nailed it, man.
Yeah, no, both of you. I think that's really, really beautiful. Yeah, there's something. The word is authentic. You guys have kept saying it's genuine. It's coming from a place of. We all wrestle with this stuff, and especially if you've lived in that organized religious space. And there is a real optimism to this, Renee. I love the way that you said that. I was going to throw in. I didn't want to interrupt you, but even like for some reason, it called to mind their credit as the gangsters that are in the strip club when we meet Serendipity's character.
Mm-hmm.
They subvert our expectations as an audience because we see like it appears there's a beef happening as they're competing for Serendipity's attentions. Then we'll cut away. The next thing we see is they've all become bros.
Yep.
And that Jay and Silent Bob are a part of the gang. And then when the shit demon shows up, they're right in there. They're the first ones to jump to defense of their new friends.
And die for it.
And to die for it, right? So there is this like real like optimism around humanity. And I think, I love the way you identified that. For me, I don't have a ton more to add than you guys have already said, but I think one thing I wanted to key in on was the way the movie it generally establishes that God is real, right? It doesn't pick one lane. I love the way that the various characters, even the ones who theoretically have a firsthand knowledge, right? Like we'll hear Bartleby say to Loki at one point, like, you've literally stood in the presence. You know the Almighty exists. And yet I just heard you go in that speech, right? So they've had firsthand experience, and yet there's still some say he, some say she. There isn't this one
sometimes the same sentence
unified perspective, and I love that. So it is saying like there is something that's real, and in the end, Rufus will even say she's not really a woman, she's not really anything, right? And that's important. But by establishing that there is something very real behind this, it allows all the wrestling that happens in the film to happen in a way that the audience, like there's that dramatic tension, right? Because these people are debating their faith and they've lost their faith and going to church is just a time to balance their checkbooks. With the backdrop of like, but it is all real. So how does that wrestling lead you back to the truth? How do you strip away all the stuff that makes God, as the muse will say, a burden instead of a blessing?
That one, man, that was like a punch. Right,
dude, made me cry when I watched it on this watch through. It really got me this time because that's it. That's when we're getting it wrong. That's a big reason why. And so yeah, I think that's part of the thesis of this film is like, how do we get around to treating this thing as a blessing instead of a burden? In the film, like I said, establishing that there is a real thing to yearn towards is an important feature rather than leaving it as a question throughout.
Let me pose something to you guys. Do you feel because of the conversation aspect of it and this sense of hope in there, do you feel that this makes this film kind of like a relevant, sort of timeless type of film that we can always have discussions about? Because Kris, you brought up a part earlier about
Mhm.
like the mega churches and Christian nationalism. I feel like why this film to me, and I want to see if you guys agree or not, why it's so relevant to today is because we live in a world where it's everything's spinning out of control. It's
Yeah.
hard to have faith. It's hard to have hope.
Mhm.
We're exhausted.
Mhm.
You go on social media, we're at millennial burnout. We
Mhm.
believe the big lie, and look at us now, right?
Yep.
Or it's there's war and conflict and poverty and sadness and so many terrible things happening, right? And we go to church, or if you even do, is just like you want that faith, you want that time, you want
Mhm.
that, and it's hard to have hope and it's hard to have faith. And I
Mm.
think that's, to me, what makes this movie so great is like because those are just timeless stories that we still have to tackle. Now, do you guys agree with that? Is because or am I just putting way too much mustard on this hot dog? I don't know
I
why I picked hot dogs, by the way.
I'm just
maybe I'm
glad you said
hungry.
hot dog and not glizzy. That's my least favorite modern.
I mean, I
Listen,
think
it's fucking
I
it's just unless I just wanna, like, make my daughter's friends just be like an old man said a hip thing, and I'm
Sure.
doing it intentionally, I hate that word with an utter passion.
Yes.
but, yeah, I mean, like, sure, the conditions of the Catholic Church have changed in some ways, like the overarching vibe, but, yeah, I think you're absolutely right that this is a timeless tale that works forever. And Bill, you've been on Media Lit enough times that I don't know if you meant to do this, but you gave me the perfect transition into our next segment, and that
Right.
is as you watch this film right now, I want to know what other media, literature, and popular culture were on your minds as you watched this film. Kris, I'm going to turn it back to you first this time.
So I mean, it's for me, it's hard to get away from just the View Askewniverse as I hear certain things said,
Mm-hmm.
like the whole fucking world's against us, man. I swear to God. That will be called out again later in Jane and Silent Bob Strike Back. It's hard for me not to be picking out because Strikes Back was the first thing I watched. And all those jokes hit me as they were the first time. It wouldn't be until I went back and watched Clerks and Mallrats and Chasing Amy and Dogma and the like after the fact. I'm like, oh, that joke's from
Mm-hmm.
this. So it's hard for me to watch any of those films and not always be thinking of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. So very top of mind for me here. And shout out to the Ten Commandments and Charlton Heston. Hey, it works. It works. And a great line there from Alan Rickman.
Bill, how about for you? What other media is on your mind?
I'm thinking of stuff like, Lord of the Rings a little bit, and the
Love
Odyssey
it.
because of the road aspect and gathering your party along the
Mhm.
way.
Oh, yeah, we're on a
Uh,
quest.
yeah, it's totally questy, not the quest
Mhm.
with Jean-Claude Van Damme, though, that movie's terrible,
Whoa.
and it's basically just Bloodsport with Roger Moore in it. True story. But yeah, so those 2 were, like, at the forefront because we're watching this, like, journey across the country, for that. The Matrix a little bit too, because I'm thinking of, like, this reluctant savior that has to save the world from itself. Um, those were the ones really, that kinda stuck out for me. I was struggling. There was this one book, and I've been trying to figure out what the hell it was. It was this one book about this kinda drunk, kinda, like, Irish. He was, like, kinda IRA, and it was, like, and anyway, I remember reading it in high school, and his whole thing was he had snitched on people, and he was, like, not the informant, it's
Mm.
something like that, and how he then goes into a crisis of faith, and it questions a lot of stuff. Also, I'm gonna say Daredevil. I mean,
Nice.
Matthew by God Murdoch,
Oh, yeah.
especially in the Netflix stuff, the most Catholic guilt-ridden son of a bitch that ever lived. Like, I just felt like there was so much that, like, you could just tie into that. It feels so, so, so Catholic in that way. So those are the things that were on my mind, just bouncing around the entire
Yeah.
time.
So it was the Catholicism, not just because Affleck was there. You were thinking of Daredevil?
Oh, no. Well, all right. So
How
I'm gonna
dare
say
you,
that
sir?
Fuck off.
I like that
Yeah.
movie.
No, you
Confession.
can fuck right off.
I like
that
I
movie's
like that movie.
terrible. Terrible movie.
I've listened to the episode of Bill versus the
Oh
MCU.
God, I want to. It's not as bad as Electra. And I don't. No offense to Jennifer Garner, but that movie's terrible. But I have to say this: like that was at a time when Ben Affleck was like Hollywood Ben Affleck. He was. I forget.
Sure.
You forget how young he was at the time, and he was just excoriated for horrible performances throughout the '90s. I really like him in this movie. I think
Oh,
he's
yeah.
fucking
We'll get
great
there,
in this
yeah,
movie.
for
He
sure.
is something else. And but yeah, those are bouncing through, and some of those like old. I felt like I said, the morality plays. I felt like, but I could hear the textbook in my high school classes just turning as I was reading them,
Yeah.
for sure.
All right. I've got a few. I'm going to try and make them quick. The first one I could easily go on for an hour about, so I'm going to try and keep this to one or two sentences. This movie has a spiritual cousin. It's a little show called The Good Place. If you
Mhm.
haven't watched it yet, watch it now. Some clear vibes and energy. Uh, I will say, rewatching this film, I got a kick out of the fact that I completely forgot that this movie basically writes the beginning of Love Actually before Love Actually came out. Watching the couples get off the planes.
Wow.
So
You
shout
know
out.
what? Holy shit! Yeah.
They ripped off Dogma.
Yep.
Number three. I did not have the time to look to see if Kevin Smith has ever acknowledged this in an interview, but it seems like part of the reason this movie is written the way it is a little Joan Osborne song, One of Us. What if God were one of us, just a stranger on the bus trying to make his way home? Just a slob like one of us, if you will.
Perfect. And there are quite a bit of bus riding in this film as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
But my most important ones were really just tied to the opening scroll and opening disclaimer. Because I saw Kevin Smith, again, a great creator, a very smart guy, someone who's grown a lot and matured a lot since then. But I can see some of his influences, and the tone of that opening scroll is giving me Monty Python.
Yes. I'm so glad you said it.
Very much Monty
Yes.
Python and the Holy Grail. The whole like, wait, is it a platypus he's taking a shot at there? I forgot to write it
It's a
down.
platypus. It's the
It's a
duckbill.
platypus. Yes.
But you know,
we
there's-
apologize to platypus. You're absolutely ridiculous animal. We love you.
Noble creature.
but yeah, to insist that any of what follows is incendiary or inflammatory is to miss our intention and pass undue judgment. And passing judgment is reserved for God and God alone. This goes for you film critics too. I love a Vonnegut reference, Kris. This was giving me hardcore Vonnegut. There's no doubt in my mind Kevin Smith is a Vonnegut fan.
He has to be.
Yeah.
In terms of the reviewers, one of my favorite Kurt Vonnegut quotes is, "Any reviewer who expresses rage and loathing for a novel is preposterous. He or she is like a person who has put on full armor and attacked a hot fudge sundae."
Mhm.
I would do that in a heartbeat. Come on. Hot fudge
But
sundae.
I'm going to read one more quote at you guys, then I will shut up. But I just have to say, from a more serious perspective, I think about this pleading in this opening scroll. Like, please take this seriously. Like, there's going to be immature jokes in here, but I've got something real to say. And my guy, Kurt Vonnegut, at one point there was an incident where a small school burned copies of Slaughterhouse-Five.
Mhm.
He wrote a letter to the district, and it's a pretty
Was
famous.
it in Florida?
No, it was somewhere Midwestern, I think. I'm blanking on the exact states. I'm blanking on which state it was exactly.
Finish your thought.
But in his letter that he wrote to the school district, I just want you to listen to this and tell me it doesn't remind you of the opening scroll of Dogma. He says, "If you were to bother to read my books, to behave as educated persons would, you would learn that they are not sexy and do not argue in favor of wildness of any kind. They beg that people be kinder and more responsible than they often are. It is true that some of the characters speak coarsely. That is because people speak coarsely in real life. Especially soldiers and hardworking men speak coarsely, and even our most sheltered children know that. And we all know, too, that those words really don't damage children much. They didn't damage us when we were young. It was evil deeds and lying that hurt us.
Mm.
I hope that
So
felt
good.
relevant.
Very, very relevant. No, did you know that there was a specific cardinal, forget who, but there was one Catholic leader who was like leading the anti-dogma charge back when this thing first dropped and leading the open protest against the film.
Right.
And when they finally had their people reach out to Kevin Smith to be like, he'd like to see a screening of the film so he can speak intelligently to it. Kevin Smith's response was, what has he been doing for the last 6 months? This person had been out railing against his film without ever having even bothered to see it. So I'm sure he's a fan of Vonnegut. I'm sure he would find that quote quite relevant.
So thank you for letting me grandstand there.
Now, really fantastic.
I'll give you a quick Vonnegut story.
Did you interview him for the pop break?
No, but in college, I had to write a story. I had to write an article about banned books, and I picked Slaughterhouse-Five, and I had to contact one of the schools that banned his books. And here's the conversation that happened. Hi, I'm doing a report on banned books, and so one of them is Slaughterhouse-Five. Okay, hold on. We're going to connect you with one of the teachers. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. I'm going to get a quote from this. They put me in touch with the band teacher, the person in charge of the school band, not band books. And I when you started talking about that and the burning of the books, I'm like, oh my God, that's a memory I haven't thought about in 25 years. I'm on the phone.
By the way,
I think it was in either the Florida or the Midwest.
It was Drake, North Dakota.
No, okay, so it was not North Dakota. I think it was Florida. And but I got to talk to the band teacher from that school for 5 minutes because I was like, I feel really bad for.
I love that it went. So, do people still talk about it?
No, yeah. My first question was that, and they're like, "This book was banned from the school."
There's so many books about band that the person who received your phone call was genuinely confused when you said banned books. They just assumed the genre of books about band.
I think that's what it was, but I really wish it was just a person who's sick of this, like, fucking with you, because that would actually be hilarious.
No way. That's.
I don't think that's what happened.
Tammy was.
I just wish that was the story.
Oh, I wish so too. I hope so too. But no, this lady was like 94 years old, and she's like, "I'll connect you to Mrs. Richardson."
That's
and
awesome.
it's like,
beautiful.
He's the best teacher.
All right, we've getting through this literature bit, but we haven't even started talking about the performances yet. So let's zero in right there. I want to hear who we think really did it in this one. Who is your favorite performer of the film? Not your favorite performer in the film. Who gave your favorite performance in the film? There is a difference. Randy, I'm going to go to you first in this one, buddy. First crack at it.
I mean, I guess I'll just be honest to the order in which these names appeared on my list. We already kind of talked about it a little bit in the background, but I mean, it's Alan Rickman. He's funny when he needs to be funny. He's able to sell the fact that he is not only an angel, but the voice of God with that just dry sarcasm. And I always love that from Alan Rickman. If that's all we got, he'd still be a star in this movie. But when he has to reconnect with Bethany later at her lowest moment, when the weight of what she's been asked to do and who she is hits her, and he is so tender and patient and understanding.
I wept that too.
Confesses that he wishes he could have taken that responsibility away from Jesus himself. It's so moving. And like, if anyone could watch that scene and not think that this movie was well-intentioned, like, what the hell is wrong with you, honestly?
Yeah.
Great pull. Such a good call. It's a beautiful scene. And he is tender is the right word, because he has been, he's a little inaccessible, right? He's sarcastic. He's much smarter than you are. He's this omnipotent being who can snap you into a tequila restaurant and back home in an instant. Turn your bat into a fish. But yeah, he's so tender there, and it's so believable within his character. And then he's downright silly. Great pick. I love when he's upset about the stains on his shirt.
Yeah. Sure.
Bill, what about you, man? Who's your go-to here?
I gotta give it to Affleck, actually. Again, it was a guy who really he got outside of Good Will Hunting. That dude got bagged on. And it was easy too, because he made a lot of, like, Matt Damon had the better choices. Like, he got the better scripts, he got the better movies. He did more creative things, whereas Ben Affleck, he did the Kevin Smith stuff, which kind of kept him a little bit of cred. But I mean, he was doing reindeer games, he was doing Armageddon, he was doing.
Dude,
Mhm.
you don't realize this, but you're quoting a back and forth banter that Affleck and Damon share as themselves in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back on the fictional set of a Good Will Hunting sequel. And they have exactly this conversation about who's making the right choices with their career, and they're taking digs at each other.
Hey, who saw Geely in theaters? Me. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it was-
giggly, right?
Holy balls! If you have never seen that film, it is literally one of the most. It's an abomination on cinema. But regardless, I think he like Damon's great. He's really funny in this movie. Like I like how he does, but they really let Affleck go from playing Ben Affleck
Mhm.
to really getting into the deep emotions of it. The stuff he does with Bethany, I think the first train scene where he just realizes like this woman is meant to kill me. I think his stuff is great, and the honesty he talks about being abandoned by God and stuff like that. It's really sentimental. There is pain to it, and when he is just. Then he gets to do a little bit of the flair, he gets his finally because he's like, my moment. I'm going to monologue in front of this crowd, not Loki. Bartleby which only makes me think of Bluey, is gonna. Because I just can't. I just think of Christmas Swim, and it's So he gets to monologue there, and he gets to throw people around and murder people. Obviously, because and the arc he goes on for being just like kind of bagging on Loki and talking about like rain fire or whatever. He's like, it was sulfur. It's really hard. And like how he was so anti-killing and then became just like, no. I am now going to get my pound of flesh. I'm going to get my wrath. I'm going to get my revenge. And then I'm going to tear everything down and I'm fine with it. I think the performance he gives is great. The part where he gets his wing shot, the pain he's going through is phenomenal. And I just love the ending where he knows he's toast.
Yeah.
And he's so happy, sad, devastated, disappointed in himself, and just says thank you.
Yeah.
And then is obliterated by the voice of God, like tremendously. I think it's just I sat there and I'm like, well, I wish they gave him better parts in the 90s. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But and he was just great. He's my favorite performer in this one. Look, I kudos to Linda Fiorentino, who's great in this too. But like, Ben Affleck, he gets the splashy stuff here, man. He gets the big stuff to sink his teeth into.
Yeah, I completely agree, Bill. Affleck was certainly my answer. I'll spend some time talking about Damon too, just for the sake of it. But really, you nailed it here. It begins, I think, for me. It's actually in the scene where Azrael confronts them for the first time in that store, and he feeds them the false story. He lets them know there are people who are after them and trying to stop them, but doesn't give them the real reason. It's because God's pride is hurt, right? God is pissed that you're going to make him look bad. And Lucifer's pissed because you're going to make him look bad by doing what he could.
Pissing people off.
You're pissing people off. And right there, you see Bartleby start to like sort of like he's shocked. He can't believe they want to kill us for this. Like up to this point, Bartleby has not really been in rebellion against God. Like they made this one mistake and they got exiled, and he's just been living that out ever since. Still with this reverence for God's creation, as we see him looking on the humans and still having sort of empathy for them. Still having this like no kill rule a little bit with Loki and trying to coax him away from that wrath. And you can tell he's a hurt child who's been rejected by a father. I forgot, which I love the line, the way that Loki delivers it. You sound like the morning star. You sound like Lucifer. I forgot that's where the conversation goes. Because as I'm listening to Affleck, I was like, oh, Kevin Smith is now just writing the fall. This is just Lucifer in his beef, as he realizes that these favored creations, these second creations, it's giving Adar in Rings of Power, right? It's the Uruk. So
can I just yes and you guys both? Like Affleck is very much the superior performance between Affleck and Damon. For all the reasons you've all laid out. It's beautiful stuff, Bill. The train scene is incredible, like you mentioned. But the other thing I want to say about this movie, is the beauty of that flip between the two characters is
parking
executed
lot.
Yeah, that's
so
where I was gonna go.
flawlessly because you don't see it coming until it happens, and it makes perfect, absolute sense. That Bartleby's beef is so legitimate. I
I
won't
thought you were
say it
gonna call him
again
Batfleck.
because I did it earlier, but yeah, it's so legitimate and the pain is so real. So
The wrestling is legitimate
Yeah.
and the pain is legitimate.
Mhm,
It's the actions where you would call it faithless, right? When you start to
mhm.
act out against those questions and against that hurt. Because I think the argument would be that there is a bigger plan at work, which is hard to live through
Yeah.
when you don't have the big picture perspective, right? But they
Smart.
they
Yeah.
hint at it earlier when Bethany says the moment she lost faith was when her mom told her, well, God's got a plan, as she was facing childlessness and losing her husband. And they don't circle back and put some heavy-handed like pin in it, but God did have an intention that she would have it. I don't believe that God like rewarded her by undoing that thing and giving her a child in the end. I believe this was always how Bethany's life was gonna go. That means that for me, like the exile of Bartleby and Loki always had its own purpose in the larger plan. So yes, the punishment feels heavy-handed, but I wonder if we had the big picture perspective, if we would see how it's a part of a larger good. But that's wrestling with faith, right? That's the whole question. Sorry, the last thing I wanted to say about Affleck, because Bill, you
Yeah,
started to
please
touch
do.
on it, but you mentioned the shooting off of the wings, but the moment that I wrote down where I knew he was the performer of the film was when he touches the blood and he tastes it.
Mhm,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
mhm.
he's crying and he's laughing, and it's like such textbook drama kid stuff. It's like you're sitting there in class and you're being told to give me this, now give me that
Yep.
emotion, now, and you're trying to manifest all these things just from within yourself, and he's doing it. Like he's not
Yeah, yeah.
actually in the face of God. So watching him actually draw out all this complication, it was beautiful. But it was in that moment where he tastes the blood. For me, the way his facial muscles, the command he has over them as he gives over to these emotions, the laugh, the cry, it was
You
just
say shaking.
yes,
Boy, you
Yeah.
see him shaking, and you're I was
Yeah.
just like, yeah. And what's
He's in
crazy
it.
when I was watching it, because I'm just saying, like, I'm like, you see Damon in the beginning, he's the guy who wants to kill people, and I'm like sitting there, I'm like, man, I thought it was Ben Affleck was the bad guy of this. I'm like, I'm probably wrong, and that's what made the turn even
Yeah.
more, because I'm like, you see it, and Damon is it was a great thing about Damon with the way he performs it. Instead of when he does the Morning Star thing, then he gets scared.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And he was like, I was gonna cut that bitch's throat. And he's like, well, you're gonna kill her? He's like, what are you doing? She was fine. Like,
Mhm.
because all of a sudden his code kicks in and you're like, oh, he was just killing people. It's like, no. Like, he almost kills the one person he offers gum to. But I mean, it's just like, yeah, it's really good writing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very good writing.
It's
Very, very
really
good writing.
stuff.
Perfect.
right.
Well, I think we we didn't hear yours yet, Chris.
No, Affleck, really,
Okay.
Yeah.
I had to double down on Affleck. I'd be disingenuous to call out anyone else. There's plenty of great performances. Chris Rock, tremendous in this film. Tons of fun.
Yeah.
Well, I think
One honorable mention, truly, and it's because he doesn't say anything. This is my favorite Silent Bob appearance.
Oh my God. Yeah.
He
I'm 100% on
really
that.
has a
Yeah.
lot to do in this movie. Not just because he gets certain like wins within the plot. He throws Bartleby and Loki off of the train. He sprays down the
No
Golgotha.
ticket.
No
Yeah.
ticket. Great line. He
the
swings
indie
the golf
line,
club.
gotta love it.
He is much more active in this than in some other films, but also he's doing a lot more acting. Watching
Yeah.
him react, watching him deliver Bethany's dead
Yeah.
body. I was right there with a teary-eyed Kevin Smith. He was breaking my heart, and so shout out to Silent Bob in this one.
Yeah, beautiful shout out. And I think I've got one more opportunity for us to sneak in a few honorable mentions. Before we get to just like the most fun parts of this podcast, I would like you guys to hit me with a little holy trinity, a favorite scene, a favorite shot, and a favorite quote. You can do those in any order you like. They can be from the same sequence. They can be from completely different parts of the film. Totally up to you. Bill Bodkin, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, this is tough. So my favorite shot is not it's personal.
Mhm.
So God is on the boardwalk,
Mm.
and so people don't know about that boardwalk is that the skee ball thing doesn't exist. That was painted. That was wood. If it looks like plywood put in front of a thing, it's because it was plywood put in front of a thing. That boardwalk was Armageddon. It was The Walking Dead. It was boarded up. There was nothing there. It was a wasteland. And to see that time capsule and to see, and just to put myself over a little bit, if you see in the distance when God is staring out into the ocean, not far from the boardwalk spot where my wife and I took our engagement photos when it wasn't Armageddon on the boardwalk. But if you see the big building in the distance, that's purple on it. So that's Convention Hall. That's where Pop Break we used to throw our Christmas shows. I produced in a show that did terribly in the arena that Bruce Springsteen and Black Sabbath and Aretha Franklin performed in. So to see that and to see that time capsule of 1999 and now seeing what it is today, like to me, I was just like, it just like kind of did a little bit of, distilled my heart a little bit because it meant a lot to me. Because Pop Break's like our soul is in that town. We came up with it. We grew up with it. Now there's that barren wasteland is filled with billion-dollar condo complexes, but such is life. I think the serendipity line that I'm gonna butcher about that she says about that Kris that you talked about before. That's my favorite. That's the line that blows me away every time about the Christ, what was it? I'm just gonna say where she's talking to them about about religion and faith.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no! It's about see is and not as a burden. See as a blessing. Burden, not a blessing. That's the line that really gets me there. And the scene that gets me the most is I can't not pop at this scene in front of the church because it just, again, it's personal because it is modeled after the church I went to for 2 years, and to see that, and then it's a Kevin Smith's church and stuff like that. So, I look at that, I'm like, man, that is something else right there. And to see George Carlin, famed atheist, kind of promo about like trying to, whether it doesn't matter which scene it is, it's either that I want the Buddy Christ scene or the Ben Affleck's grandiose speech, like both of them. I'm just like, it's just so. I'm actually gonna change my mind on that. I'm gonna say it's the first one with Glick because of the Buddy Christ. Because one, again, it's that church, but it's also what they're trying to say, and it reminds me of just everything wrong with the church, and it reminds me of how much I was so infuriated by the New York Cardinal, who's now not there anymore. Who I remember during COVID watching. I was like, wow, I'll watch church from St. Patrick's Cathedral. Why not? And I watched this guy. I'm just gonna call him Guy. Beg Trump to reopen the world, to quote unquote, to his line, so we can get collections back because we need the money. And I was just like, this is why people don't like the church.
Yep.
Right there. Begging Melania Trump, who is next door, to ask her husband to reopen the world in 2020, by the way, so they can get. Yeah. And it's just like, and then when I see Carlin doing this, I'm like, you are the manifestation of everything wrong with the church. And then so was this guy. And I was just like, that's the scene. And it's played great because it's George Carlin, who was famous for taking the church to task. And he went to the same high school as my dad. So he definitely was brought up in that Catholic world as well. So yeah, so that to me is a scene, and of many, many scenes, but those scenes all hit a little personal for me.
And the fact that he's such a titan and he knows and respects what this movie is doing. I love that.
Oh yeah.
Kris, how about for you? What's your little holy trinity going to be?
I'll try to lightning round this thing. The shot for me is easily Bartleby coming down in front of the church doors with his wings.
Yeah.
When he's descending upon the earth with those big, massive wings, and he lands. And I wonder how they did those practical effects. Like you watch Affleck sort of posture in a way where the wings are out and he draws them back so they're behind him, like a bird would or an eagle. Super, super cool. Love that shot of him coming down. Love the look and feel of those practical wings. So just awesome.
Yeah.
And the way they do the armor, the angel armor that was under their gear.
That's
so dope. My favorite scene is that sequence where you've got Bethany's pulling the plug, right? So she's in John Doe Jersey's hospital room. She's figured this thing out. She realizes that God is trapped in this human body, incapacitated, intubated, and she's pulling the plug while we're flashing back to Bartleby having had his wings removed, and he's running for the church doors. And then just as finally the tube comes out of the dead man's mouth, or the soon-to-be dead man's mouth, light bursts forth there in the room with Bethany. And then we're back to the doors of the church, and the doors open and light bursts forth in Bartleby's face. And there's just such a beautiful buildup of tension there to that ultimate release with the flash of light. That whole sequence is so energetic. The whole close of the film, the third act really does drive to the finish line with a ton of great energy. But that scene for me is just chef's kiss. Really fantastic. I'm locked in, edge of my seat. Can't wait to see how this thing resolves. My emotions are at their peak at that point in the film. And the resolution, the exhale, when that light bursts forth and Bartleby just lets it all go. He sees her. And he just immediately, he's like a small child in the face of a beloved parent, and he collapses into her. That scene, all of that, the buildup of the tension and that big exhale is just so beautiful.
It is.
And my favorite quote of the film, this one's for you, Bill. I suggest you not underestimate the staggering drawing power of the Garden State and show up 2 hours in advance.
That
Beautiful
was
delivery.
That was the fuck you line right there. Like, show up 2 hours.
Really, really good. As I said, Kevin Smith wrote this from a very personal voice, and I love that he snuck that one in there. Sold out? Yeah. There's one same time tomorrow. I suggest. She's fantastic. Just Kurt enough.
Yeah. Perfect stuff. For me, for quotes, we've already kind of talked about this sentiment a little bit. But like, if you had to communicate all of what this movie is about in one quote, it's from Rufus. I think it's better to have ideas. You can change an idea. Changing a belief is trickier. Just really sums up this entire movie so perfectly.
I just have to share. That was on my list, so I want to make sure I got it right. I'm looking at quotefancy.com. Who attributes this quote word for word verbatim to Rufus Wainwright.
Cigarettes and chocolate milk.
There you go. Kevin Smith does love a Canadian.
Heard.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. In terms of shots, I do unfortunately think like there's a clear winner, Kris. I think you picked it. Like, it's hard for it to not be Bartleby with wings outstretched in front of the stained glass window of the church. But I'll give a little shout out, honorable mention to, it's not nearly as grandiose, but I do think they sell the wing reveal pretty well initially in the bedroom with Rickman to hit us with that practical effect. It's weird, even though the Affleck shot is so much better overall, that image of the Metatron unleashing those wings is like one of the first images that comes to mind when I think of this movie. Like just this whole like magical world coming into Bethany's world is so powerful. There are so many scenes that I want to shout out here. The honest answer is just the movie boardroom scene. I've often talked about what a sheltered little soul I was as a child, and I think this was one of the first movies where, the violence of that scene in some ways feels so casual, but it's not there for shock and awe. It's trying to say something about the world in an unfair way that it works. And it's revealing sins that are unfortunately very believable and true to the real world and the way people behave and the decisions that they make. And I think that was sort of like the cool scene that I think resonated with me most when I first saw it. But in all honesty, the scene that resonated with me the most as someone in his early 40s, it is Bethany and Janine Garofalo, whose character name I failed to remember. Their whole conversation at the clinic it's really beautiful. I mean, we're getting to the bottom of why Bethany is so unfulfilled, and clearly like we've got women from different faiths, and Bethany is working in this clinic despite the fact that she's Catholic. Where the Catholic Church, has taken such a strong position against any forms of like birth control and things like that. So like it's like another they don't get all up in our face about that, but it's another subtle sign of why she's maybe so conflicted about her faith. That's probably on the list of reasons why. Um, but the fact that Janine Garofalo's character can really have this meaningful conversation about faith, with the whole faith is like a glass of water thing.
Got a
And
lot.
she turns it into a "you need to get laid" joke, but there's more behind it than that. She really does respect Bethany's like searching for some kind of like faith fulfillment as well. So I thought that was a surprisingly clever scene that didn't resonate with me as much once upon a time.
Yeah,
I agree.
great call out. Yeah, I wish we got more from Janine Garofalo in this, surprising for kind of her cachet at the time that this was all that she was doing in this movie. But I suppose that's something we'll come to be used to. It seems that Kevin Smith has a drawing power of his own, much like the Garden State, right? Because folks seem to be happy to come and play in his world. So there was a world where Janine Garofalo almost played Bethany. Did y'all know that?
No.
Yep.
She was considered for the lead role. I guess Kevin Smith maybe has expressed regret that he didn't cast her. I don't think he and
So that I read about that before we started. It
Okay.
was apparently on the commentary of this. He said, "Oh, Janine would have done maybe have done a better job." And apparently, Linda Fiorentino was like, "I don't like you at all for saying that." And after his heart attack, they actually reconnected, and he apologized, and he realized like what a terrible thing to say. It was just like he's like, that's like this if like Dogma's my movie, and someone's like, yeah, it would have been better if Ben Affleck directed it, and you're like, ooh, yeah, that would have been terrible. So apparently, fences bended.
beautiful.
I do think that would have been an interesting choice in the lead, though.
Sure. Absolutely. I can absolutely see the version of this
Mhm.
movie with her in the lead.
Yeah.
Randy, some
Shame.
great picks, man. Love the way that you appreciate
thank you.
this film. I mean, I think we've mostly done it. I'm glad we got to each do our trifecta, but we have to have left some stuff on the table here. I almost read the entire Loki Through the Looking Glass speech
Sure.
out loud, but I figured I would spare us. So let's just do a quick round robin, lightning round. Anything you want to make sure you shout out, anything that was left on the table in this discussion. Bill, why don't you jump right in?
Oh my gosh, if you love the View Askewniverse, I mean, you're gonna get all the cameos. Q from Practical Jokers right there in the beginning. You got Walt, you got a whole bunch of guys. You got Dante, you got everybody. You get all the greatest hits there. I do love. I got to shout out the bar scene. Jason Lee, who we haven't
Yeah.
talked about at all. Really just a delight as Azrael, Azrael.
Azrael,
Yeah, I always called him Azazel. That's for Jason
Marvel.
Fleming's character from X-Men First Class.
Yes.
Really good movie. And that I like a lot. And it's just, I thought that bar scene's great. Also, it's a Jersey Shore classic. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I did love that, and I do really love. I don't think we've talked enough about Linda Fiorentino's performance here. As someone who, to a lot of people, like an actress lost to time, really didn't do much after the early 2000s, had a random movie with Chaz Palminteri in the teens that she did, and then is in retirement. This performance here, she's fantastic. She has to carry so much of the emotional weight of this film. It has to really kind of be the scion of Kevin Smith, essentially, to be his, his avatar and talk about all his points that he wants to make. And I think it's fantastic what she does here because she's able to balance the comedy. She is the quarterback of this movie because
Mhm.
she has all the heavy stuff she has to the stuff she has to do with Ben Affleck. She has to get the two knuckleheads she has to deal with. She has to deal with, do a lot of exposition with Chris Rock. Play the noob essentially to Alan Rickman's character, right?
Yeah.
Be the brunt of his wrath. Feel the brunt of his wrath, I should say. And I just think she is so fantastic in this. And I hope there is a way we get a comeback for her somehow, some
Yeah.
way, because I think there's some flowers that are owed to her for her performances throughout her career that a lot of people
Mhm.
probably have forgotten about. And also, I think that's my biggest takeaway that I have not talked about for sure.
Great call out. Yeah, she's fantastic. I completely agree. Randy, anything you want to make sure you touch on?
I mean, my biggest vision for this section was like, I knew I was going to be going deep into like faith and emotion here. And I just wanted an excuse to talk about the things that I find so funny. One thing I love about this movie is just like the way I appreciate things I don't normally appreciate in movies, right? Like I talked about my defense of Jay earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have zero interest in going to, and I happen to have never visited a strip club. Nevertheless, that scene is so funny. Kevin Smith as Bob, like the way he's kind of like dancing and grooving, like
Yeah.
unfolding the little bills. Like it's like one of the funniest things of all time. Like
He's making such a sweet, innocent little happy boy face as he's pulling out his bills and he's dancing.
And like I know they're trying to communicate that it's like, you know, she's inspiring him to like remove the cash or whatever, but like it's still just so
Salma
funny.
Hayek looks exactly the same. Exactly the same.
Go back to your paper roots, you mighty duck fucks.
It's a great line, dude. It's a fantastic line.
That's so good. So good. Oh my god.
Really fantastic.
Like I've got so many here. Kris, have you seen Hoppers yet?
Not yet.
Okay, so Bill, you'll appreciate this. But when Bethany is drunk and she's like, how would I even kill an angel? And she just kind of like mimes in the air, like smushing some little bugs or something.
She's drunk.
It's a great shout out
Chris,
to Hoppers.
when you
That's
see
all
Hoppers,
I'll say.
Okay.
This is a moment.
Okay, great. Because she's a hilarious performer in that moment, performing drunk.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, she's great.
So good.
And yeah, so many others, but I had to shout out a few faves.
Really wonderful. I'm glad you did, because there is. I'm like scrolling through the quote list right now, and I could just read every one because the bits are all so fantastic.
I just love fucking with humans, you know.
Yeah, I love fucking with the clergy. He says specifically, keep them on
clergy.
It's like to keep them on their toes.
And then the nuns like getting drunk. Yeah.
I love the way Serendipity. For some reason, I love Home Alone, but for some reason it takes a massive stray in this movie from Serendipity. She says she's responsible for 19 of the 20 top grossing films of all time. 19? Questions Bethany. Yeah, not the one about the kid by himself in his house. Burglars trying to get in. He fights them off. She's brilliant in the way she delivers that, the way she gives the scream. Couldn't be more in love. She's just tremendous. Somebody sold their soul to Satan to get the grosses up on that piece of shit. She says, unlike Tyler McCarthy, I don't find anything perverted about watching this film any time of the year. I
was going to bring it up, but I do think no. You were an exception to the rule, my friend.
I love Home Alone, but I loved the little swipe that it got taken out here. Maybe it's because there's such reverence for John Hughes in this film.
Sure,
there is. Yeah.
So maybe that's why Home Alone had to catch a stray.
Sherman.
Yeah, right. There is no Sherman, Illinois. They wanted to go there and corner the weed market in Sherman, Illinois, because they'd seen so many of those movies. Nobody's selling the Chronic out there. Brilliant stuff from Jan and Silent Bob. Holy Bartender. When Jay finally gets the joke.
Hilarious.
That's the great one, he says.
I love the whole Chris Rock scene where he's just like, if you think they married a guy, they weren't having sex. Or he's talking, and he's explaining the lineage. I'm just like, come.
He stayed married for that long. Maybe he wasn't getting laid.
Yeah, and it's just like, come on, like that's like it's like you believe the Immaculate Conception, but you can't fathom that the other can't fathom line. With he's just like, oh, when Alan Rickman's like, oh, I don't know what the Metatron is, but we make a reference to a Charlton Heston movie, and all of a sudden everyone's a theologian. And I'm just like,
theology scholar, he says.
I'm terrible at quotes, by the way, if you haven't noticed.
I just have to say, Kris, did we already do the central air on mic, or was that just beforehand?
I think that
was before when I was telling you.
Yeah.
So that joke was, we're recording this, and the day before recording this, I was up in my bedroom, and it was 85 degrees in New Jersey, and I had the air conditioning on, and today it's 40, and I'm wearing a sweater, or sweatshirt, sorry, and then Kris just boom hits the line of, Kris, go ahead, my friend.
No pleasure, no rapture, No exquisite sin greater than central air.
So true.
Randy?
Every time I check into a hotel room, I say those words aloud. It's my most quoted line from the film.
It's like an obligation almost.
Yeah.
The
So
last
I need a favor from Randy. The next time you're on vacation, you have to film yourself saying that and posting it somehow, tying it back to this because it has to happen.
Gotta do
Okay.
it.
All
Gotta
right.
do it. I'm
I think we
a
can do that.
I'm a facilities manager for commercial properties by trade, and so very much I live this. Every one of the people housed in my buildings would agree. Nothing better than central air when it works. The last thing about the film I actually wanted to celebrate, though, the format of our conversation doesn't really leave room for it. The sound design on this is really dope. It's really, really dope. It stands out to me when
Is it the toilet scene?
the toilet scene is graphic. It's the buzzing, the sort of the sense of buzzing flies or bees that we get
Yeah.
with those three demons, the triplets there.
The Mighty
That's
Duck fucks.
the Mighty Duck fucks. Absolutely haunting, and there's bits of that brilliance really throughout.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's subtle. We could do a discussion just on the subtle sound design within this film, even to the point where there's this funny dub moment where Serendipity is quoting Azrael.
Oh,
And they
yeah,
choose to
yeah.
just put his voice in her mouth. Brilliant little moment in the film. It's like just such an enjoyable stroke from a quality filmmaker. I can picture he and like Sam Mosier, his producer, kind of collaborating on this. Shout out to Sam Mosier for his cameo in this as well. All the time, Kevin Smith collaborators.
what was his cameo?
He was the adulterer on the bus. Not that it's any of your fucking business, but no. And then he's the first person Loki murders. Yeah.
I also love there's a great visual gag that I wasn't expecting that it works really well. And you would think a visual gag from 1999 that's going to work well is when the Mighty Duck fucks cut into reality
Yeah.
and end up back into what I'm assuming is Middletown, New Jersey, because that's a suburb outside of Red Bank. And it just feels like that cul-de-sac is right there. But yeah, I love that. I was like, whoa, that looks really good. Like there are sometimes you watch a movie, like, you know, we go back, we watch some stuff and it's just like, man, these effects, like you go back to some of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man stuff, like you're like, because I just did on Bill versus the MCU, you're like, wow, this really still hits. It really works. And yeah, that I love that.
Yeah. I feel like I can smell the shit demon, you know? It's very real. It's very tactile.
Been in many a dive bar in Jersey to tell you that I could too.
Oh, no.
That would
All
make quite a double feature with the toilet from the beginning of Train Spotting.
Oh, dear.
Oh, good gravy.
On that
Got it.
note,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, on
Well,
that
shit.
note, I think we did the main movie, guys, but we've got to hit the extra credit section. I just want to quickly throw out a couple superlatives. And first up, we've got our Bardo Buddy Award, inspired by Kris and I's shared love for the television show Lost. But you know, a Bardo space is a hypothetical space, not unlike purgatory, in which perhaps you could work through the problems you had in life before moving on to another plane of existence. And my question for the two of you is, which character from this film would be most likely to appear in your Bardo space? And Kris Ingersoll, gonna throw it to you first.
Oh, dear. Most likely, honestly, is probably a different answer. But the one I would most like to appear in my Bardo space, the one who I felt provided the right guidance here. Man, I'm wrestling with this now. I wish I hadn't gone to me first. I'm going to stick with Serendipity, the muse herself. Quite literally inspiring certain actions in this film that take the plot forward. But really, that speech, as I said earlier in the conversation, I think it's kind of the thesis of the film. The real problem is when folks treat God as a burden instead of a blessing. The factioning off of all of the religions, she'll say. She also has a fantastic, like she really gets the things about the book that we humans have gotten wrong. I love that her last statement, the thing that she wants most in this movie. No, you know what? Actually, it's Rufus who makes sure that those changes that he's looking for in the Bible happen.
Yeah.
He's talking to Metatron. But I have a feeling Serendipity wants the same thing. So yeah, man, I can picture this person coming into my Bardo space, having that power of persuasion to really to speak into the exact part of my soul that needs to be inspired in the right direction in a given moment. She is full of eternity worth of wisdom. So can't get a better spirit guide than that.
Perfect answer. Bill Bodkin, who's going to show up in your Bardo space?
Yeah, it took me a minute. I've never really watched Lost outside of the first couple episodes, so I was like, oh boy. I'm gonna go with Alan Rickman. I'm gonna go with Metatron, and
That's why I was wrestling.
I know. I mean, the more you keep saying wrestling, the more I'm just like, let me tell you something about wrestling. But it's what I love about him is it's just like kind of that like someone you could talk shit to. You're like gonna have an unfiltered back and forth, but ultimately has that heart that you need. Okay, I'll just say he's like a less. It reminds me of my dad. So it's like
More
someone
British version of your dad.
hell, yeah, I mean, Alan Rickman there's no one more British in my opinion than Alan Rickman. But my dad was the type who was like, he wasn't as caustic, but was also not afraid to like, if you wanted that opinion, he was gonna give it to you. But at the end of the day, heart of gold. And not afraid to call himself out on stuff, not afraid to get real and get emotional. And that's kind of what I mean, I'm sort of that way sometimes, but I'm like, maybe I'm that way a lot of times, but that's something how I respond better to that. Someone who is just like, you're going to give me shit. Well, I'm going to give you shit. And at the end of the day, it's all hashed out and we can figure this stuff out. And by giving shit, I mean, it's more of like ribbing more than yelling. And so, but ultimately knowing that that guide is going to tell you how they feel and is honest with you, but also has a compassion at the same time. That's the great thing about him in this, and I almost want to change my performance to him because he has that compassion. He has that thing. And even at the end, even though God got blood on his favorite shirt, he still looks at God and just like, you scam. I'm so glad of your voice. And it's just like, yeah, it's right there. Watches them doing upside down stuff, and it's just like, hey, that's God for you, right?
Yeah.
Boop.
Oh, no.
I can't believe in the what do we leave on the table section I didn't talk about Alanis Morissette as God. Everything about
It's
that.
perfect.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
And not even the first choice, by the way. It was offered to Gillian Anderson, and there was someone else they offered it to. I don't remember who it is. I will find out using my power of Wikipedia, and I'll let you know while someone else goes.
As I said, he does love a Canadian, so I'm sure he was happy to land Alanis Morissette.
I
when it
mean,
was all said and done.
Of course.
I love Alanis. I love Gillian Anderson, but I think I would like take Gillian Anderson too seriously as an actress in that role. Not that she can't be silly. She's great at that, but it's Alanis, man. It's got to be Alanis. Yeah, for my Bardo buddy, I'm gonna go with Bartleby. I'm gonna get back to being serious here. Luckily, we've talked at length about this character and his complex psychology. But I relate to Bartleby because he is so full of empathy, so full of compassion. But there's this deeply repressed frustration, this breaking point, this sense that there's a lack of fairness. Where was his infinite fucking patience then? And if I look at my own flaws, I feel not entirely different from Bartleby every now and then. So if I'm in a Bardo space, Kris, I'm pretty confident you're a first ballot, straight to heaven candidate. So like, I don't know that I'm going to be lucky enough to hang with you there in the Bardo space. But like maybe while I'm waiting, maybe I have a little like purgatory podcast with Bartleby. We can work through some of our shit, try to find some peace together, and we'll see what we can do.
Emma Thompson originally offered God first, but she was pregnant and could not edit
Did you say Melissa Etheridge?
I said Emma Thompson.
Wow, okay. That makes way more sense. All right.
And Holly Hunter as well, I saw, but she passed, I guess, because she had recently played an angel.
There.
Randy, I would listen to that podcast, buddy, for sure.
Oh, man. You and Affleck at the same time. You have similar hairstyles, too.
You do. Similar beards.
Similar look of defeat standing in front of our homes with a Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
Only you and there's snow outside. All right. That does it for the Bardo buddy, but we're not done with superlatives yet. We've had to do the media lit superlative. Look at Bill getting warmed up because he knows what's coming. Bill, it's time.
I don't. So I'm just because I forgot.
Okay, well, I'm going to pretend that you are both a fan of the podcast and a good friend. And I'm going to say, Bill knows what's coming. It is time for us to pick our one prop or souvenir from this film. For the Podlings at home listening in for the first time, you will know that Randy and I spend the entire year populating our prop cave. That's an imaginary, bigger on the inside space where we fill with all kinds of wonderful goodies from the properties we discuss. Sometimes it's a still frame from an animated property. Sometimes it's an entire room from inside a film or television show. But the sky's the limit for our guests. So, Bill, I'll go to you first. If you could have one prop from this film, what would it be and why?
Bootlegger bar, baby. Give me a good old-fashioned Jersey Shore bar. I'm setting that thing. Give me the whole bar. First off, I'm taking that Miller genuine draft side down. First off, and I'm throwing some sort of Irishness up in there. I'm gonna do a little bit of renovations, drinks around the house for you two. I'm telling you that. We're gonna have some. I gotta get a kitchen working in there, brother. I'm having that. I'm having that. That's man. Oh, it was like not even a question. As soon as you said the props, I'm like, oh yes, that's right. And I was like, fucking give me the bar.
And that would be my local, and I would be thrilled.
You do not know how many people have been like, you should run a bar. And I'm like, I do not have the money.
Man, you'd be great behind the bar.
Amen.
And Randy, you get the first crack at it from the Media Lit team. What's going to be your prop?
This is such a strong movie for this prompts. Like there are so many good options. I'm almost regretting letting you host this section because I wish I were picking last. And I'm like, do I go big or go home? Or do I go with something small and adorable?
Bus.
I'm gonna go big, right? We've got in our imaginary prop caves, we've got an art museum. Back when we did Knives Out, I took like the whole pulpit that's a ship. And this is gonna be in the same wing of my museum. You look up to the rafters, Kris. And on wires, you have the angel armor and the wings splayed out.
Yes,
from the movie.
Randy.
Yes.
I love that for you. I love that for you.
Would you have that above the pulpit?
I think slightly offset. Like I'm not going to try to make them feel like they're part of the same piece of art, but they're going to be nearby.
Oh, it's so good.
I love that.
Little bit of blood on it from the massacre. I hope
naturally.
Dude, such a strong pick. I love that for you because it's like a little bit outside a typical Randy pick. I would say maybe it feels like it's a Kris pick. It's a pick that I was wrestling with. And you have freed me from. So my reaction was both joy for you and joy for me, because I felt like that was almost the one I had to pick because it's so in keeping with my brand. I like to pick the sartorial pieces. I have a ton of costumes. I think more costumes in my prop cave than you have in yours, right? So it was hard to resist almost, but I'm so glad you went there. It's perfect. It's going to look fantastic in your prop cave, and it allows me to take the one that I really wanted. Bill, you'll recall during our Wake Up Dead Man chat, I walked home with the hand-carved crucifix with the gem inside the chest cavity. So I've got this really beautiful, my prop cave, that beautiful proper crucifix. So I have to pair it with, of course.
No, of course.
The Buddy Christ statue.
Oh,
someone had to take it.
Yeah, come on. Got to have it. I've got my pin. I love my pin. It's a blasty blast. But I'm looking at the picture of him right now, and it's so, so good. It's so cartoonish. His beard is so perfect. His hair is so wonderful. I really need this. I wonder if I could buy one in real life.
Oh my God, Kris.
You have one?
Guys, no. So the original statue is at his comic store in Red Bank.
Yeah, I knew that. Yes.
Yeah. So when you guys come visit, I'm going to take you right there.
So, Kris, I'm just saying, I think this is just because I've had the joy and pleasure of hanging out with Amanda Rivas on podcasts lately. I think you could do a Buddy Christ cosplay.
Oh my God, dude.
I'm looking at your beard right now.
He's still my heart, that dude.
He is a blue-eyed. He's a blue-eyed Jesus too.
You want Kevin Smith to comment on that? Do that. Dude.
Wow. All right.
So
let me work on this.
Oh my God, Randy, that is like 10 out of 10. Someone should put you. Yeah, forget you're going straight to heaven for that.
Yeah, that's
Right
right.
there.
He's first ballot
Oh.
Hall of Famer.
Holy shit.
Oh man, I just have to shout out real quickly. There was something I either had never noticed or I'd forgotten was in the movie, but I had to pause the TV at one point during the second Cardinal Glick scene, and I'd completely forgotten the box of Hosties cereal
Yep.
set up as a Wheaties box. I got a true kick out of that. It was on my list as a possibility.
That's really good. That would have been a nice pull. If I had snaked the wings and armor from you, that would have been a great pull. Oh man. That's excellent.
All right. Well, guys,
Now I want to see this cosplay. Fuck.
I know, right? It's
Can't get
been another just like emotionally fulfilling night with both of you. Love our pods about the complexities of faith here in the wake of the Easter season. But yeah, Bill, it's always a joy when you come here, and it was nice to like bring you here for just like a fun chat, no gimmicks, just to really enjoy a great conversation with you. So thanks for being here.
I still have this on my desk, by the way. I still have the pineapple. Shit. What a professional I am. I still have that from Glass Onion. So now, guys, I love coming on this podcast. You are both just such smart guys, so such fun people to be around. I love podcasts where I don't have to host because I'm tired, and two is like you always just open up parts of my mind that is this, and to go back to a film I haven't watched in 20 years. That was so symbolic of when I left my childhood home. That was one of the first movies I watched, and it was set in a town I moved into, and like bringing me back to like a heyday that I hadn't thought about in so long. And it was really and to really kind of question and bring up stuff about faith that we talked about last time. It was fantastic. So thank you both. You're both wonderful human beings. I put you over so hard in the last episode. I was re-listening to that. I was like, wow.
Oh yeah.
They fucking pay me for that. Just like, but it's true.
Why we brought you back,
And they're like, we don't
never
feel
go
about
too
ourselves.
long.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, exactly. Every time we're a little low, we bring Bill in.
Hey,
no, buddy, we love you, really. And it's so great to pod with you. It's great to hang with you. Thank you for joining us and elevating this conversation. It would not have been the same without you.
I am going to hold you guys to something you did promise me on one of the podcasts. I don't remember the segments, but I remember this. Is we talked about, I might have been online or offline, but I'm going to say it on here. We talked about the Odyssey. You guys are like, hey, we should do Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And I'm just like, I have been preparing in my mind so many things. If I'm like down, I'm like, I'm going to think about that podcast. And I'm going to think what I'm going to say on that one.
I see Randy
wait.
penciling it into our schedule right now.
Actually, I am looking because I'm pretty sure I penciled it in as at least a question mark previously. Yeah, it's already on there as a question mark. I haven't reached out to you yet, but I was like, maybe July. I was trying to maybe get it out right before the Odyssey.
I have no vacation until November. I am a Dapper Dan man. And if you want to talk, you guys quote those movies, wait till you hear my Coen. Kris, as Kevin Smith is to you, the Coen brothers are to me. So, my friend, I am ready whenever you need it.
Thrilled.
You have my axe.
I'll show you the life of the mind.
Oh, it's a goddamn geographical anomaly.
I'll just be singing that song for a month after we rewatch the film.
I was brought up to do karaoke one time, and my wife's best friend's stepfather was running. He's like, and singing the next song is a newly married an anthem about a newly married man. So Bill Bodkin, you're gonna sing "Man of Constant Sorrow," and I'm like, thanks, bro.
Lovely. You come here and you don't host, but there are lots of things that you do host, Bill. Why don't you, before you go, tell the folks where they can find more Bill Bodkin out in the world.
Excellent. Thank you so much, guys, for having me. I am the editor-in-chief and co-founder of thepopbreak.com. We are turning 17 years old this year, so we're going to the prom. We got our driver's license. It's going to be great. Follow us on all forms of social media at The Pop Break. We're on YouTube at popbreak.com, all spelled out. This summer, we've said it, and we're going to keep repeating it. Video podcasts are coming. Yeah, we're late. We know. It's me. This is what I do. Late to everything, but always with a good intention. So we're going to be doing that this summer, definitely for Socially Distanced, which is our weekly flagship podcast. Randy and Kris have both been on it. Kris is going to join us at some point for our Daredevil talks. Randy has been on his Night of the Seven Kingdoms guest spots, and everything we've talked about this year. He's great. So we've done that. But right now we're in our Daredevil era. We're also going to be talking about Maul, Shadow Lord. We have a May the 4th episode coming up, Mando and Grogu. We're also going to talk about the NFL, our legendary free agency podcast, post-draft podcast. We do it every year. It's a lot of fun. So follow Socially Distanced. We drop every Thursday on all your favorite streaming platforms. I am the Bill and the Bill versus the MCU podcast, which is a first watch for me mostly and a rewatch for my partner, Alex Marcus. And we talk about all things Marvel. We're in our Spider Pod era. We just did the Spider-Verse movies. We're going to be moving into Venom. I don't know how I feel about that. Then after that, it's like the Spider-Man villains films, Morbius, Madam Web, and Craven. So I'm in for just a world of pain. And finally, TV Break is our monthly TV focus podcast where Alex, Josh, Sarnecki, and myself talk about the ins and outs of the world of TV. We review a new series every month, I should say. You can catch some of my stuff coming up for jerseysbest.com, nj.com. This summer, I'll have a lot of stuff coming out in both print and digital. And I'm also going to be reviewing Daredevil on the reg for the pop break. Not as many written pieces as I would like this year, but they'll be coming. Summer's around the corner. Plenty of jam bands for me to interview. But gentlemen, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on this podcast. Don't forget to plug your own stuff, including what you do over on the pop break.
What a guy.
I've done a few podcasts.
We do have a handful of things going here at Media Lit. For the Podlings at home, if you enjoyed this conversation, if you would like to find more Media Lit out in the world, we're on all the socials. Just hop into your favorite web browser and type in media/lit podcast. And you're going to find us in places like Instagram and Blue Sky and even Twitter still. We've got a really fantastic website, which is linked in the show description. There you'll find links to our past works. You'll find little info about Randy and I and the various projects we have under the Media Lit banner. But most importantly, as Randy mentioned at the top of the pod, we love to hear from you folks. We're a guest-based podcast, and our guests assign us the homework. That means you get to assign us some homework too, should you so choose. If there is a story that has somehow impacted your life, something you've shared with somebody special, a story that has shaped you in some way, and you just would love to hear some folks give it the loving treatment that you believe it deserves, send it our way. That story can take any shape. We talk about literature here. We talk about music, film, television. We'll do one episode of your favorite show, a show that only got one season, but means something to you. So get in that email inbox. You can email us at media.slash.lit@gmail.com.
Kris, thank you so much for doing that as you always do, but I'm not going to even give you a breather because I need you to jump right back in and tell us where folks can find all the great work you do even beyond Media Lit.
Aside from Media Lit, I am also the very grateful co-host of the Batman by the Numbers podcast over on thepopbreak.com. That is a once-a-month podcast with my good friend Dan Cohen, where we go deep on all things Dark Knight. In the year 2026, we're returning to our roots after spending a year with Superman in 2025. And this year, it's all about the different eras of the Batman. We kicked it off with 66 and Adam West back in January. We moved on to the Burton era, took a pit stop in the animated series, and we're on to Schumacher. So keep up with us this year, 1 month at a time. Don't worry, Bill. We're going to give it its flowers. We're going to have a great time with the Anniversary Brothers on that one. Once a month on the popbreak.com.
Gorgeous.
Batman by the Numbers. Aside from that one, I'm also the very grateful co-host of Podlings. That is a Beck Hansen appreciation podcast on the popbreak.com, which is hosted by Randy Elaine and Justin Mancini. These two have been doing music podcasts for a few seasons now, including bands like Black Sabbath and The Police. They were kind enough to invite me in as a third chair for this one. Beck Hansen is Randy's favorite artist of all time, and we are exploring his full discography, one album at a time. Check us out once a month on thepopbreak.com at Podlings. And I'm also doing some writing for the Pop Break. Bill Bodkin launched a playlist column that I'm grateful to contribute to month over month. So look for the playlist column on the Pop Break as well.
Kris,
I'm going to convince you one day to write some more stuff too. Don't worry.
Some stuff.
I get you.
I mean, you are a skilled writer, Kris. I love every write-up. Great voice, great vibes, as always. And thanks
Voice of Christmas.
Yes, thank you for plugging Podlings. Bill, if you can make this happen with the social media team at the Pop Break, I do have video of
me.
Kris wearing hot pink pants and a hot pink tie for our Midnight Vultures recording yesterday. It looks freaking incredible, and the world deserves to see this outfit. So
Yeah.
stay tuned for that, if nothing else. Yeah, check out my writing on the Pop Break. Bill mentioned my Knight of the Seven Kingdoms write-ups. If Bill would like, I will hope to be back this summer covering House of the Dragon.
Yeah, it's
as well. That's the trick. I just ask him live on the pod, and there we go.
You can
That's
ask
one way to do it. But yeah, and of course, follow us on MediaLit, not only for the episodes proper, but also for our remedial rewatch, Community 101, with the great Tyler McCarthy of the Pop Break. We are just about to wrap up season 3, which is the end of the 3 key seasons of Community, but there's still lots of great stuff coming your way for the rest of the year. So thank you for all of that. And folks, I think we did it. Thank you for being here, and have a good night. Whose house?
Run's house.
Say what?